I think I was talking to somebody and they asked me just broadly, like, is it hard to be a guy?
I remember listening to someone, pregnant lady, when a guy saw her and he got up for her to sit down, and she was offended that had happened. And this is a real story. This happened here in the UK. I've heard stories of guys opening the door for a woman to go in first, and they're offended by that. I can do it myself. So in recent times, I've been questioning myself about who I am. We are of African descent, and there's some cultural nuances that say, as a man, you should be this, you should be that. Because you're born a boy and you grow up into a man, you have no choice. It's inevitable. You have to be a man. You have to be a man. It's going to happen. It's a natural course of things.
Hi guys, my name is Fokpe Adiola, and this is the first episode of As a Guy. So welcome guys, and I hope you guys have fun and learn a few things. So this is the pilot episode, like I said, and today we are not talking about like a specific topic per se. So we're just going to talk generally about why this podcast is important and why men need to start talking about issues that concern them and how to address those issues constructively. And to dive into that with me here is Mr. Tayo Odekunle.
Hello.
Yeah. Please tell us about yourself. Tell us a little bit.
We always start with these questions. Tell me about yourself. Okay. It's that in itself is an interesting question, because recently I've been thinking about who am I? And so I'll start with the basics. My name is Tayo Odekunle. I am born in Nigerian, but I lived in the Caribbean for a number of years. So I'm more. I tend to be more Caribbean than Nigerian, and now obviously I live here in the UK. I'm British, so I'm a British Trini Nigerian.
Trini,
if you want to put it that way.
I like that.
I'm successfully 43, or celebrating the 20th, continue to celebrate the 20th anniversary of my 23rd birthday.
Yeah.
I am by profession, I am a cybersecurity expert or consultant, one of those things, and married, beautiful wife and 2 children, and I also pastor or co-pastor, or I help with pastoring the church. So yeah, that's a little bit of who I am. That's the demographic data of who I am. But yes, as I was saying, in recent times, I've been questioning myself about who I am, and I look at all these things that I told you, even that experience of being born in Nigeria, raised in Trinidad and Tobago, and coming back to the UK and settling down here. I found that because of these little micro experiences I've had that have come together to make me who I am today, I am a storyteller, because my life is a culmination of little stories.
Yeah.
And so I think if anyone met me today, and I know it seems like a cop-out answer, but it's the truth, is I am a storyteller, because when I'm sitting here today, because my life experiences have taught me certain things that I want to share with the world, and I share these with the world from my perspective. They're not 7 highly effective habits of a leader, or they're not books I've read or something, but these are lived experiences, and my lived experiences are the stories that I even myself continue to rely on to get me ahead. So that's a little bit of me.
Yeah, that's interesting, because I don't know who said it, but the person was trying to say how it's different, your life experiences, from who you are as a Christian in your spirit, and that you can easily tell, who you are physically or socially based on, your secondary school you went to, uni you went to, all those experiences.
Yeah.
But who you are in Christ, that is kind of like different, and it's certain. It doesn't change based on any experience. So, thank you for sharing a deeper a deeper angle into who you are. Interestingly, we both grew up a little bit in Ilori. Well, I spent more time in Ilori definitely than you. And both our parents are university professors. And yeah, I remember the first time we met and you were like, this is just scary. I think is what the word you said. Like almost everything was like Ilori, university professor, blah, blah, blah.
We know some of the same people, just some of the churches.
Exactly.
It's very weird. But it's good. It's good. It's good weird, it's good weird.
Yeah. So let's just start. My first question was going to be, why do you think this platform is interesting, or should we say necessary today? But I wanted to tweak that a little and make it more. Do you think there is a male issue in society today? I mean, so somebody called me this morning for a mentorship program for young boys, and their issue was the girls in this organization were taking more to the programs that they had planned for them. And girls were gaining more, learning more, interacting more with the teachers and so on and so forth. But the guys were not taking to it as much. So they needed, male mentors to come in and help. Okay. So do you think generally there is that issue of, there's a male problem in the world today?
Absolutely. Without a doubt. There's a male problem. From the female perspective, there's a male problem. From the male perspective, there's a male problem. From the church's perspective, there's a male problem.
Yeah.
There was a time in our local church, we had I believe it was a prayer meeting before service, and I cheated a little bit. I opened my eyes to look, and I looked around, and there were more men there than there were women, and it shocked me in a good way, because most churches today, when you go to the churches, and I will speak from the church perspective because, again, it's my foundation. It will always come out in any conversation. Even sometimes in the professional setting, you're trying to explain something to someone, you want to go, amen. I'm not in church. Anyway, so what we used to see, even as far back as when I was a little boy going to youth fellowship with my aunt, was that there was the percentage of women attending Christian programs always seemed to be more than the men. So naturally, it seems to me that because if you go to the mall, there are more women there. If you go to the cinema, there are more women there. If you go to church, there are more women involved. That tells me that there is a problem. There's a problem. So where are the men? Where are the men? So to answer your question, without spending too much time on that, because I know there are more deeper things that we will touch on. There is a problem with men in the world today, and it cuts across many industries, across many verticals.
So do you think that problem now is because it's hard to be a man? I mean, I think I was talking with somebody and they asked me just broadly, like, is it hard to be a guy? And I kind of took them on this journey of, well, for example, in my church, there's a little girl that has a birthday. There's something going on in my head that says you have to buy the person a gift and, show love to that person. Or there's a need for a volunteer in church. As a guy, I'm thinking, well, I'm supposed to offer my service, naturally, like taking on responsibilities and so on and so forth. And I would say, in that sense, you could say it's hard to be a guy, but it's not any harder than it is to be a lady. It's just a different type of hard, because a lady too has her own responsibilities, her own challenges that she needs to go through. But do you think the male problem now is, well, men are seeing all these challenges, all these responsibilities, and it's like they can't handle it anymore, and they are running away from that?
Well, they are running away, and because they're running away, from challenges, then they're amounting to very little. When you ask the question, is it hard to be a man? My knee-jerk reaction is to say no. Because you're born a boy and you grow up into a man. You have no choice. It's inevitable. You have to be a man. You have to be a man. It's going to happen. It's a natural course of things.
Yeah.
So to me, it seems like what is termed as the hardness of the lived experience of a man seems to be linked more to the responsibilities that come by virtue of you being a man. And you alluded to some of that there. Having the presence of mind to know that, well, there is a responsibility, that there's something that needs to be done, and I want to take on that responsibility of doing it because I feel that I'm empowered and enabled to do that, right? Now, for you, that's easy to do, but for someone, the question will be, why do I have to do that? I mean, and we need to interrogate that a little bit. Why is it a problem for you to help out? You know, what has happened historically to think that men shouldn't do that? So, if I were to answer the question to anyone, I'd say, no, it's not hard to be a man. But why are you asking the question in the first place? So, if we can dig deep to that, to that challenge as to why people think it's hard being a man, then you start to uncover the different layers of people's interpretation of man. There's also that cultural side of things where, so we are of African descent, and there's some cultural nuances that say, as a man, you should be this, you should be that. We are also Christians, you know, and we know the Bible talks about the first man, which is Adam. And if you look at that story, those who know me very well always know that most of my conversations will always end up
in the Bible.
My
next question was going to be, what does the Bible say about it? But
and in Genesis, you know, so Adam in Genesis, the one thing he did, as soon as God created him, the guy was off. He was doing stuff. So the desire to do has always been, it's something that is built into a man. The desire to do. The desire to do. We are doers. Not to say women aren't, but we're not talking about them today. They've got their own form. You know, we're talking about man. A man has been created to do. Right? Is it hard being a man? No, it's not hard being a man. Is it hard living up to your responsibilities and the challenges that are tied to the responsibilities? Yes.
Yeah.
But show me someone who's successful that has had an easy life. Even, okay, I won't call names.
Interesting. So, you know, the other day I was walking down the street going home, and then I saw this lady carrying a very big box. She looked Asian and middle age, and I felt, let me help. Like, I don't know you from anywhere, and I know it's going to look weird. Like, why am I collecting a box from you and stuff? But I was like, let me just, you know, walk up to you and say, do you need any help? And I did that. I walked up to her and she was like, no, thank you. And with kind of like a cold, you know, response, undertone to it. So I was like, okay, bye. And I walked off. And, you know, now that you were saying, well, why are we asking this question? I guess from that perspective of our doing instinct and instinct to help being rejected by the world today, do you think that's part of why, you know, guys are finding it harder? I mean, we kind of live in a world where men are being told every day that we no longer need you, right? We can't do it ourselves. So do you think that's something that adds to that, you know, hardness?
Yeah, it's difficult to this, especially when you talk about chivalry. I mean, chivalry is dead. Chivalry is dead. I remember listening to someone, a pregnant lady, when a guy saw her and he got up for her to sit down, and she was offended that had happened. This is a real story. This happened here in the UK. I've heard stories of guys opening the door for a woman to go in first, and they are offended by that. I can do it myself. And so what traditionally men didn't. So we have to go back. This wasn't done because women were seen as weak or anything. It's just a decent thing to do, right? It's a decent thing to do, and I think decency has shifted, and decency has shifted because the moral fabric of society has shifted. What we would have done, but then that's talking about chivalry now. But even down to the responsibilities, where it's such a multi-layered and complex issue, because we've been also told as men growing up that a man shouldn't cry, a man shouldn't do this, a man shouldn't do that, blah 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 blah. So they've given us this portfolio of responsibilities and things that a man should do. And this, and growing up, you realize that you can't tick all the boxes, so you feel you have failed.
Yeah.
Right. And because you feel you have failed, you then think, oh, it's hard to be a man. But really, a man is a vessel of purpose. Right. So in that situation you talked about, where you went up to the lady to help her and she rejected the help, that's fine. That's fine. It's part of dealing with your responsibilities. When you write an exam, you go in to write the exam knowing that there is a possibility. I'm 100% prepared for this exam, but there's a possibility that I'm going to fail. Do you stop writing the exam because there's that slight possibility that you will fail?
Yeah.
No. And oftentimes you say, "Oh, this exam is you're preparing for this exam is so hard. It's so hard preparing for this topic." It's hard because you think that there's a possibility that you will fail. But think about this. Think about the easiest thing it is to do in life. The easiest thing it is for you to do in life. You do it without even thinking that you will fail. Right? Breathing. Nobody ever thinks, I'm about to take a breath. Is there going to be air? Do you understand? So you are not afraid, and you don't think breathing is not hard. But tell that to someone who's living with an iron lung. Yeah. It's hard for them. So it's in the mind, and what we need to be doing is challenging ourselves, challenging those things, those things in the mind that makes us think that being a man is hard. And I guarantee you, if you ask any man today, why do you think it's hard being a man? The answers you'll get will be so different. Yeah. So different. Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting that you mentioned that now, because I think I was mentioning behind the camera that we did do a survey asking that direct question: is it hard to be a guy in 2024? And we've had almost 70 responses so far, and majority is yes. I think next to that is maybe, not really, and then the lowest number obviously is no. But one comment on YouTube that we got was the guy was saying, well, if you really think about it, it's part of, well, from his own perspective, it's, you can't look, and this is a sexual one now, so you can't look anywhere on the street without any girl concluding that that's sexual harassment or something like that. Like the average guy now is assumed to be dangerous, like before even proven guilty, and that's part of his own problem. But you've talked about reframing our minds and, starting to think more about it in the sense of you're built to actually do this, right? You can handle this. But statistics are actually showing that that's not what is happening. People are kind of tuning out of manliness and masculinity. In fact, I don't have to mention the trans movement and all these types of genders that are coming out today. But just on the basic level of men working in society, for example, they were saying that generally, well, men no longer work as much as they used to, as compared to 1960s and back in the day. So do you think the issue here really is what society is doing, or is it men that are just lazy?
Mm. That's a very, very interesting question. Okay, so let's take a few steps back. Let's use America or the US or the West. What happened in post-World War is from let's look at the 19th century and 20th century. From 1918, where the start of the First War, right up to 1945, Second World War, women weren't necessarily allowed to fight in the army, right? So we had a lot of boys, and they were boys. So you had this multiple generation of men who go out and die for their country, right? What happens when they're at war is the role of the woman is enhanced in society. So they were in the factories.
Yeah.
They were working. They were the economy. They were driving the economy. A lot of these men come back damaged from war, right? And they now have to reintegrate into a society that has been reframed by the female experience. Now, if you look at a woman today, even the Bible tells you the characteristics of a woman. She's out there, she's busy, right? As opposed to a man is like a laser-guided missile, right? If my wife comes to me and tells me today, Tayo, or Sam, as some know me, go to Tesco and buy me sugar and tea. I am coming home with sugar and tea. Because as I'm laser focused on delivering what they've asked me to deliver.
Yeah.
A woman's mind doesn't work that way. It's not a flaw. They're just different. They just process information differently, right? If I say, honey, can you pick up sugar and tea for me? She'll go to the store. When she enters the store, she will think sugar and she'll be like, oh, if he's asking for sugar and tea, do we have enough teaspoons in the house? Oh, I saw last week that, one of the mugs cracked. Might as well pick up a mug. While I'm picking up a mug, we might get visitors and let's buy more than one mug and a tray, you know. So she thinks not just for the now, but and all the ancillary matters. Yeah, I don't think like that. Yeah. I want to go and get that. Now, there are some guys, and that's another thing that we need to tackle, this generalization of what a guy is or what a guy should do. But I'll tell you, like, most of the time, guys are like that. You just want to go in and do, I don't like shopping. But my wife loves shopping. She can stay on one aisle for an hour. No kidding. I would lose my mind. You know? Yeah. So society has been framed that way. Now, coming down from the World War to now, the community is shaped by this female experience, where we're now seeing that women want to go into the world of work, not just work in the domestic side of things. So we've seen a massive push, and it's great. You know, the women empowerment movement has moved in such a way. You know, the feminist movement has also to get women in the corporate space, because effectively that's what happened. We could drill down. I don't want to go too far, but one of the ways that you can one of the perspectives you can look at is a lot of the soldiers who came back from the war were soldiers or NCOs, what we call non-commissioned officers, for instance. These guys wouldn't have gotten top jobs. They would have ended up maybe as cleaners and whatnot. Then the next level would have been the officers who came back, who knew somebody, and they would have gone into corporate roles, in senior roles. So there was that gap. You have them, men at the lowest and men at the top, and then you have the women in the middle there. And so these women now started competing with these guys who want to take their roles, and because these men are laser focused on trying to get there, they were edging them out, right? And then we started seeing less of a representation. So, okay, I'll marry a woman who has been working in the factory all this time. I'm bringing money home. I'm going to marry her. I'm going to let her stay at home and take care of the children. Oh, I've been at war for 4 years and I want to make children now. I've not had sex in 4 years. Right, let's do it. You know, twins,
Yeah.
triplets,
Yeah.
Do you see what happens? And now we have the baby boomers there. So that's what's happened. I think that's one of the things that's happened over the years that has skewed the culture and the community. But I still come back to the fact that I choose not to believe that being a man is hard. But the responsibilities your responsibilities will always come with challenges. And you have to step up to the challenge.
Yeah.
It's a lazy man that chooses to see a challenge and walk away from it.
Yeah. Amazing. I think the statistics I was looking for is, so yeah, in the 1960s, 97% of men worked, but today, 1 in 9 men don't work that are capable of working. I think that's what I was looking for. So I wanted to talk more about what the Bible says. I know you touched briefly on it before, but what does the Bible say about the man being the man? Obviously people quote, God made woman for the man, not man for the woman, and man came first, and God gave him work, blah, blah, blah. But what really does that mean, like, practically to, the average 16-year-old, 20-year-old man who's just entering society, figuring out their life? What does that really mean?
Well, that's interesting because very quickly, I thank God for this. I'll talk a little bit about myself. I'm obsessed with wisdom. I'm very obsessed with the gaining of wisdom. One of the stories I love the most in the Bible is the story of Solomon, when God went to him and says, okay, you can have riches or you can have wisdom. And he chose wisdom. And I've always said, God, give me the opportunity, because with wisdom comes a lot. Read the book of Proverbs and you'll see. And so wisdom taught me not to read the Bible the traditional way, Genesis to Revelation. It's not a book. And so when people ask me, what's the Bible's definition of a man? This is a weird answer to that question. The Bible's definition is this: as a man thinks in his heart, so he is. As a man thinks in his heart, so he is. And the whole premise of the New Testament, in fact, the whole premise of the Bible is to try to get man to think like God would.
Yeah.
Right? So if we start from that premise, then we start to see that it's not about a man in the Garden of Eden, right? Because God looked at that guy and saw, he's not quite go where I want him to go.
Yeah.
So let me get him someone to kind of help him see it.
Yeah.
But he still didn't catch it, because as soon as he saw a woman, he was like, ooh, bone of my bone, flesh of my flesh. He missed it.
Yeah.
Then he sent Christ, who we know the Bible says is the second Adam. And Christ says, I'm not come here to, if you look at how Christ talks, everything was all about love and patience and all these fine, beautiful things. It was all matters of the heart. So if you, as you think in your heart, and I come back to that, to that scenario you mentioned, walking down the street, in your heart you said, I've seen someone in need. I want to help them. As a man thinketh in his heart, so he is. So the definition of a man is a person who sees a need, or should be the person that sees a need and sees that he's capable of meeting that need. Now someone will say, oh, well, that can apply to anybody. Yes, it can apply to anybody, but we're talking about men, right? A man, how you think. So for a 16-year-old, I'll tell you, becoming a man is, you have to train your mind to be the best version of yourself in every situation. In every situation. You look at every situation and you assess, but then you need the tools to help your heart to be built the right way. So we look at the Bible. You also get a mentor. You get a coach. You get friends. You get an accountability partner. You surround yourself with people and things. You get a mentor. You get a coach. You get friends that your accountability partner. Surround yourself with people and the things that help you cultivate that culture in your heart, so that you are that person that is a helper to the world, to the community, to the people within your sphere of influence. Right? So that's what I believe. It starts with how you think about yourself, how you think about what you can give to the world. Two, recently I was talking to somebody, and this lady was so frustrated with someone that he said, look, every time I talk to him, he's only talking about the things he has rewritten history so that the drawbacks and the things that have happened in his life are everyone else's fault but his. So in his heart, he sees fault in everything that everyone else has done, but he's not taking up the responsibility of ownership. You own your life, right? And that's one of the things there. The reason that there seem to be a lot more men falling out of the world of work or not being involved is because they think ownership has been taken away from them and given to the woman. It's not because they said, oh, we should have 25% of women in corporate roles. That doesn't mean that 25% of men need to be removed or lose their value.
Yeah.
It's just creating a more competitive environment. It's not male, female. It's equity. You know, so we need to look beyond all those things that are happening in the world today, because that's the problem. Is the world is full of people with different ideas of how things should be done, and when you try to create it, it's like coming back to the Bible. The Bible says that that sin came because the law was created.
Yeah.
Right. So whenever you make a law, you've inadvertently created the converse of the law.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And that's the problem today. Yeah. It's such a complex matter. That's it.
I mean, 30 minutes is not enough, and we've run out of time. But I wanted to give like a final word. Part of why we started this podcast is I don't know if I told you, we did a play in Nigeria, and it was called As a Guy, and it was at the height of cybercrime and Yahoo and all these things that guys were getting into back then. And I remember back then girls were also into it because they were like, at least he's doing something, at least he's sending money home. And you know, it was quite dicey because it was like, well, there's no work, but he's doing something. So what do you say to the Nigerian man, to the man who feels like, I've tried everything and there's nothing else I can do?
Oh, I'm going to be harsh. Keep trying. Keep trying, because the moment you give up, you've given in, you failed. Yeah. I cannot overemphasize how difficult it is for everybody in what I call the global South. Lack of opportunities, lack of jobs. But the Bible says, if you find something to do, do it. Right? Look, let's be real, right? Even I work in the cybersecurity industry. It's a $1 billion industry on both sides, both for those who are working to prevent cyber attacks and those who are working. I mean, it's a business. It's a business for hackers, you know, and they work hard. Yeah. That's why they're successful. Their success puts me in a job. It's funny, you know, a hacker's success puts me in a job, because I now have to, every time we're looking at solutions, we're looking at, because the solution we created yesterday has been
repeated.
Yeah. So my advice to men across the world is this: look, work hard, pray hard, play hard, you know, and keep trying. Repeat. If something doesn't work, set it aside, interrogate it, find out why it didn't work, fix and move and replicate your success. Break your big. And another thing that we do is sometimes we might have this grand idea of where I want to go. Okay, that's perfect. That's fine. Good. You have a vision of where you want to go. But that vision is not for now. That vision should be broken down into little steps. Break it down into the smallest, minute steps. Replicate your success every day, you know, we started a conversation recently about a target for next year. And in order to do that, you have to break that big target down to a small thing. Okay, what do I need to do now that gets me one step closer? Because if I'm successful in that one step, then the chances are the next 2, 3, 4 steps, I will be successful. I just need to replicate the attitude of success. And that's it. But you have to work hard. You can't give up. Giving up is the ultimate failure. And that's why you have in the global north countries today, a lot of men in prison because they've just given up.
Yeah.
And you're looking for the easy way out. You get into drugs or something, blah, 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 blah. Yeah. Work hard, play hard, and pray hard. That's actually not mine. That statement, and I'll end with this. That statement was made, it was if I remember correctly, it was probably it was in the early 90s. One of our family friends was being interviewed on TV because he'd graduated from Federal Government College in Lonry, and he had the highest score in the country or something. His name was Kome Oteri. So if you look at him, and he said this on that show, and I have never forgotten it. He said, when they asked him, so how did you do it? He says, I work hard, I play hard, and I pray hard. Because the world is hard. So you put your best into it and leave the rest to God.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your wisdom. Thank you for sharing. And guys, this is the first episode. This is the end of the first episode. We hope that we were able to touch a few things that needed to be touched, and that we answered some of your questions and helped you get through some difficult situations there. Stay tuned for the rest of the episodes. They will come out every week. See ya.